put this together when I was trying to decide if I was going to run for this seat, and I'll kind of go through it. But just a little background on me. I mean, most of you have seen our brochure, and everybody's asked me about the brochure. They said, well, it's a very comprehensive brochure, and it has a little bit about biographical, it has some issue stuff in there, it has a little bit of the history and that sort of thing. I served in our state legislature for 10 years. And I told the group that was in here a little earlier, I've had 8 years off for good behavior. So I've been out of politics for a while. Did not think I would ever get back into it. But when Dan decided not to run, I had several people call me. Don Nichols, who I've been good friends with for 30 years, called and said, I know you're living back in McAllister now, and why don't you run for that, and those sorts of things. And I really thought I would not run. And the reason why is that I tried to encourage the guy that ran last time to run. And most of you may or may not know Charles Thompson that ran. I became good friends with Charles, and I thought he was an excellent candidate. He almost beat Dan Moore with $50,000, and Dan spent $1.2 million. But Charles came to me and said, Wayne, I'm not going to run. And he said, I think you need to run, because he said, this whole financial piece has gotten so dire that we need someone with a financial background to run. And my degree from East Central University is a double major in marketing and management and finance. And then I have a minor in accounting and economics. And I graduated in 1983 from there, went to work for an insurance company in Oklahoma City. Worked there for about 6.5 years. Then I started my own company in Oklahoma City, which I've had now for 28 years continuously. Did get mad, kind of like we all do, and I ran for the Okemah House of Representatives in 1994. After a lady by the name of Laura Boyd tried to take over our state healthcare system. Being in the insurance business, I was very near and dear to that issue, thought that government takeover of healthcare was wrong, just like I think it's wrong today. And enticed me to run. I ran, got elected. By the time we got elected, that issue was over. But I then set on what I call the path to reform, where I tried to reform a different area of government every 2 years that I was elected for the entire 10 years I was in the Oklahoma House of Representatives. And I actually wrote our promise to Oklahoma, which was our contract with Oklahoma. Being elected in '94 was the same year that Newt Gingrich and the folks came into Washington. We had a number of issues. I had gotten very involved even as a candidate with our Republican leadership. It was very small at the time. We only had about 30 Republicans at the time, but I got involved crafting issues and everything and helping some of our other candidates win. I ended up winning my seat, which had been a Democrat seat, but got very involved in trying to craft what our message was going to be, along with Governor Frank Keating, which was the first time we had had enough Republicans to sustain a Republican governor's veto. I got elected to leadership almost immediately in our Republican caucus because I was so active and everything. And then, like I said, we ended up crafting that message of reform that we used for the next 10 years to try to change what we thought was wrong on the state level. Things like reforming our welfare system, that was one of my bills that I ran early. We had our car tag bill, which, remember, the car tags used to be $800. Now they're all $85. We reformed those. I did our victims' rights bill that allows family members to know when a person's coming eligible for parole. Also, one provision of that bill that was very controversial at the time is it allows the family members to be present at the execution in McAllister when we put someone to death. And that's still a law today, obviously. Some other bills that I passed a major tort reform bill. I had a lot of help on that bill. There were about 8 of us that actually put that bill together. It was the first tort reform bill. We've had Part 2 and Part 3 since then. As a matter of fact, this last one that was done was very good as well. But the point being is, basically always wanted to be a businessman, never really in the political side. Ran for, got elected, did my service there, then left, went back to the private sector. I've served, as we talked about just a minute ago, I've served as a platform chairman. I've served all through the county offices. I've also served on my hospital board. I've served as president of my chamber. I've served on my water committee. I mean, who's the gentleman here from the city? I've served on virtually all of those different types of committees, and I think that's the difference. And I talked to one of the guys that's running. I said, why are you running? And he was talking to me, and I said, well, I'm running because I think we've got a very serious issue, basically, that's coming up now, and I think a lot of it's going to be financial. And I obviously think that we need someone with a financial background running and really running. The other point is have you served before? And you'll see our message that's on all of our brochures. It says, proven conservative leadership. And that's kind of our message, is that I'm running because we need someone that can go in immediately and address the issues that are coming up. No on-the-job training. But I think we also need the background and financial piece as well. So legislative background, financial background, and then financial business background.
Girl Scouts.
I'm sorry, the back.
So I'm going to kind of go through this. I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you about my family. My wife, Tony, been married to her for almost 20 years. My daughter is 21, and she was 1 when Tony and I got married. She was Tony's prior marriage, and she's my daughter through and through. And I have a son now that's 15, who will be my next driver. We were talking about that earlier as well. That's why I'm shaky a little bit. No, but Drew's a good kid too, as a matter of fact. He just got his braces off today. I'm excited about that. But I could go on to more bio. We can talk about that a little bit more afterwards. But I want to get into this because I don't want to take a lot of time away from this. I'll get rid of the logo that's just staring out there for a few minutes. But I put this together, like I said a minute ago, because there were some serious issues that came up about August. In July, there we go, thank you. In July, we had the initial part of the debt ceiling issue that came up again, and it's come up so many times. But this one was a little different because we were going to be passing the $15 trillion mark. And this president obviously has passed as much debt almost as all the other presidents combined. So it has gotten very serious. I mean, we cannot continue to buy the junk cars and all the other things, the Solyndras and the things that Mr. Obama has done. But it's not just the debt. It's also a total function of our monetary policy. I'm going to talk about how we kind of got into that, but I'm really going to talk about 3 things. I'm going to talk about our entire United States monetary policy and the Federal Reserve System, how that came into being. Then I'm going to talk about our excess government spending, which we all have been very cognizant of, particularly since last July. And then right before you reach for the barf bag, I'm going to talk about how we hopefully fix this. Because obviously if you don't have a plan to get us out of this, why are you running for Congress? And that's the point I want to get to. Is our spending out of control? Is there anybody in this room that thinks our spending is not out of control? Obviously it is. This takes us back a little ways. Takes us back, actually, I graduated high school in 1980. I'll be 50 in July, so I'm telling you my age. But you see all the red that we've accumulated here. And of course, right in here we have a brief period when Newt Gingrich tells us he balanced the budget. I'm going to argue that Newt really didn't balance the budget there because we took money out of Social Security in those years, and so we technically had a net outflow of money in those years. But you're going to notice how deep the red gets over here. This is the last year of George Bush's administration, and all 3 years of Barack Hussein Obama's administration. And obviously, that amount of red equals all the other red combined. So obviously, very serious, and threatens the viability of our nation. Is our government debt out of control? It's one thing to have spending out of control, but the accumulated debt is the snow that's in front of the snowplow. And it has obviously gotten very bad. You look at our gross public debt, we don't even see it until about World War II here. You get over here, we basically outspent the Russians. And that's how all this, we basically beat them without firing a shot. But right here, you're going to see is when our current president got elected, Barack Hussein Obama. I love to call him by all 3 names, you have to notice that. But this amount of blue, obviously, just about equals all the other blue combined. And it is very serious. We now are about $15.4 trillion. If you go to our website, www.pettigrewuscongress.com, the debt counter is on there. When I put it on there, it was about $1 trillion less than we are at today. We're going to go up a full $1 trillion this year on our debt. Who was Milton Friedman? Anybody knows much about Reagan and the Reagan economy knows that Milton Friedman was the economics advisor to Ronald Reagan. He was a very monetarist type economics advisor, very free market. He said that economic freedom is as important as political freedom. And that's very important. Because you can be politically free, and a lot of people in this country think they're politically free, but folks, we are not economically free, and we have not been economically free for some time. I'm going to talk about that more as we go on. Because the government is telling you now, based on taxation policy, and I know this is